In this video, you'll learn how Tabindex affects keyboard accessibility and when to use it to support accessibility. Resources to find Tabindex instances on your site are linked below. Let's get started. Tabindex is an HTML attribute that controls keyboard focus. Tabindex equals -1 removes an element from the tab order. It also makes it so you can set focus to an element with JavaScript. Tabindex equals 0 adds it to the tab order where it appears in the HTML. And positive values create a custom tab order but can hurt accessibility. Typically, you'll use Tabindex equals 0 and Tabindex equals -1 to support accessibility. You shouldn't use positive values to rearrange the tab order. Instead, adjust the source code so it's in the right order and do presentation adjustments with CSS. Here are 3 ways to use Tabindex to support keyboard accessibility. First, you can set Tabindex to -1 to set the focus on elements with JavaScript's focus method. This is helpful for elements that users wouldn't navigate to directly using tab, but need keyboard focus set to them. For example, a modal screen that needs focus when it appears, or a form submission error message that needs focus after a form with errors is submitted. Let's review an error message that uses this. This new user form had errors when it was submitted. There is an error message above the form field telling the user the issues. The div that has the error message text also has the Tabindex attribute set to -1. Now you can use JavaScript to set the focus to that error message instead of the top of the page. Setting the focus to the right spot on the page is helpful for keyboard and screen reader users because keyboard users can now select tab and are right where they need to be, in the error message and form. Otherwise, they might have to start at the top of the page and tab to get back to the form. And screen reader users now hear the error message right away and know there is an issue. The next way to use Tabindex is to add Tabindex equals 0 to scrollable containers with the CSS overflow property. CSS overflow can create scrollable containers, which is an interactive feature a keyboard user needs to focus on in order to scroll. In most browsers, users can't tab to a CSS overflow element by default, so the keyboard user wouldn't be able to focus on the scrollable area to scroll it. To fix this, give the container Tabindex equals 0. Now it's part of the tab order, so a keyboard user can access it to scroll. The scrollable container needs a couple other things to be accessible. First, it needs a label. And second, it needs HTML semantics that explain what the content is. You'll add an accessible label with either aria labeled by or aria label. To explain what the content is semantically, you could use HTML sectioning elements, a landmark role, or a group role. Let's review an example of this. A common scrollable overflow area is the terms of use boxes. In this example, the terms of use scrollable container has Tabindex set to 0 so keyboard users can focus on it. It also has aria labeled by and the role set to group so screen reader users hear an accessible label and it is semantically emphasized for them. The last way to use Tabindex to help accessibility is when you are creating custom and interactive components. An important thing to remember is to only create custom components when HTML doesn't already provide that functionality. For example, use a native HTML button, which is automatically added to the tab order. Don't make a custom div to create a button, which would need additional coding to make accessible. An example of a custom interactive component that doesn't have existing HTML is tabs. Tabs have multiple tab buttons and display one tab panel with content at a time. Tabs often use Tabindex -1 on tab buttons, so JavaScript can manage focus on the active tab as users interact with it. They also use Tabindex equals 0 on the tab panel to add it to the tab order. Now that you know when to use Tabindex, you're ready to find it on your website. Use the free Wave extension to find Tabindex on one page at a time, or PopeTech's free plan, no credit card required, to check up to 25 pages. Check out the resources below for more information on how to do this, and remember to subscribe for more accessibility tips.